ML project topic is to recommend podcasts to customers based on their interests. Uh, I have started with valuation. Is there any problem? Yes, there are a lot of podcasts these days, and very few are popular because it's very difficult to identify the new podcasts exactly based on the personal. Individual's interest. And if there are, and usually like big personalities are famous, and for example, Joe Rogan is famous, so maybe the recommendation is for all his podcasts, but it's very difficult to identify which episode I want to listen from that entire channel. So can ML help me solve this? Yes, using the interest data of the individual and feature like what news they follow or what industry they belong to, and their demographics, age, location, gender, etc. We can collect a lot of data and give personalized recommendations and predictions of what specific podcast episodes the user can listen to. So people do care about this. They spend a lot of time in commute, and they don't want to spend a lot of time in researching which podcast. So we definitely need a solution to uh, give better results within no time, and give more visibility to content creators who can earn more based on this. So there's a high business impact and feasibility. So that's why I would continue with this solution, with this problem statement. Using the CRISP DM business understanding, I would like to define the problem and success metrics. So my target population is the end customers, maybe aged from 15 to 70. Since this is a huge age bucket, we can cluster and classify which people would want to listen to which podcast. The problem is I need to identify good and personalized podcast with minimum efforts and time. Why it matters is because if the relevant content is not easily available, then either I'll lose interest or I'll switch to other platform, which gives me better results. Current state is basically customer has to research a lot on who is good, which episode includes which topics, and search results on the apps are generic or not very current or personalized. uh, my success metrics is like business impact is, um, if I give better prediction and personalized content, then my customer base will increase. In turn, people will subscribe more to my platform, and it will increase revenue for content creators as well, the hosts who and even the guests who are coming on the podcast. My outcome matrix is basically I want to improve the search results and give better personalized content. And output metrics is basically classification error metrics, which is precision, recall, and accuracy. I want that personalization to be precise. I want the podcast to be recalled properly. There should not be there should be less of false positive and false negatives. uh, Different factors which are potentially relevant is interests and episode length. I can get historical data, and so I can analyze search patterns of the users. Demographic data can be collected from users using the user input like sign up information, etc., or surveys. Then content creator popularity, like both host and guest, how popular they are, how is user engaging with their content, like subscribe and comment, share, etc. What industry the user is belongs to, like where are they working, or what are they studying. So user input can be a good source. uh, how will I validate my solution? So my data needs are, for training, I can use historical data like the old podcasts which are available on all the platforms, their description, their guest and host information, the type of users listening to it, and their usage metrics. and the prediction data can be real time, like the new podcasts which are coming. I can start classifying that podcast into different topics, and the new users which are joining the platform, I can categorize them as well in different buckets. The data type and model type are so data type is speech and text data from podcast. It will be mostly unsupervised learning, since the data is unstructured, and it's very difficult to label as well. Then the search and user input can be structured data. It can be labeled. Then and the ML model type will be classification model to identify different topics in those podcasts by uh, analyzing that entire podcast text by text. To validate my proposed solution, there are 3 steps I would like to follow. First is the heuristic solution to get the benchmark result. So based on users input and search queries and old customer user engagement data on the current podcast, I can analyze and cluster that information, so to get the benchmark error rate and outcome. Then once I get that benchmark, I can use different ML models for basically classification of the podcast in different topics, and I can use clustering to get my target segment, like demographics, which user wants to listen to which topics, and clustering podcasts with similar topics together, and to identify if there's any correlation between them. Then I can also define features by clustering, and then get the prediction by classification and then mapping it to the clusters. Then the last step is the deep learning model. So once I get the heuristic benchmark, then I'll get better results with the ML model. Hopefully the error function will be minimized, and then in the deep learning model I can use it to predict the probability of each class whenever a new podcast is coming, and whom should I show it. So I don't need to define the features myself. I can use the deep learning model itself to define the features, and then automatically predict whom it should target. It will remove my individual steps of clustering and classification, which I used in the normal machine learning model step. The system design for this ML model will be like, I need cloud and not edge computing, because I need connectivity. I need high throughput because multiple users will be asking for recommendations at the same time across the globe. And privacy may not be that big a requirement, because it's okay, and it will be okay to send the data to the cloud, because the results are more on clustered segment of users. It's not like exactly private. Then for training, I would need hybrid training. I'll use offline and which is scheduled training, to get better personalization using old podcast data and user input. I will also need online training, which is real time, to give results on based on current environment. If there's any news event or current affair or current thing happening in the world, I would like to give that recommendation as well. Prediction will be batch prediction, which is scheduled. It's okay not to give prediction on new data, because even if I get a podcast which is 2 month old or 1 year old, I am okay with that, as long it satisfies my needs. I may also need new podcast, which because based on the current market conditions. I will also need distributed processing for both data collection and pipeline, and then training that model on that data. So that's why distributed processing would be required, and for infrastructure I would need good cloud storage, because all the podcasts need to be stored on that platform, and then the models need to be trained on those podcasts. So I would need good cloud storage for that as well. Then last thing is the potential risks in the production environment. So one could be concept drift. Say for example, if the podcast is hosted by an AI agent instead of a human being, then the podcast may turn out to be good or worse based on how humans are having perceive them in general. So we may have to update the model altogether. There could be data drift. Say for example, the COVID happened, or there's war going on in Russia, Ukraine. So based on different geopolitical event, the podcast topics may change quickly, and the model needs to be retrained every 2 weeks or a month to give better recommendations. Then prediction requirement may change. It's possible that Gen Zs start using podcasts very often instead of seeing the TikTok reels. Then there might be huge rush on the platform, and people may want instant results, and then both latency and throughput requirements may change, increase or decrease. Then the threshold change should be there. Model may decay over time. Right now Gen AI content is in generative AI content is increasing, so it's again part of concept drift, and then we may have to and the current model may decay, and we may have to retrain it again. So that's how I'll basically make a model to recommend podcast to customers. Thank you.